Hi, Mike Shope, Adam Krautwurst, getting ready for week 8. Injuries, bye weeks, devastation on the fantasy landscape in week 7. How about those teams they picked to go together in week 7? How about the wide receivers that missed last week? Diggs, Jefferson, Kupp, A.J. Brown, like 4 of the first 6 receivers missed. Devontae
All
Smith,
of them.
Davis.
Yeah.
It was hard out there, but we managed. Here we are, prepping for the playoffs. Advice from Adam on how to do that, even though it's still only October. It's a little bit getting late. We'll talk about a couple of the big news stories of week 7, the Breece Hall injury. Ugh, that was one of those guys that we loved having at this point, but he gone. So we'll talk about that. Look at a draft we're looking back on, a league where Adam and I are in contention. And we'll talk to Zachary Krueger of NBC Sports Edge about his excellent team in the Draftsharks Invitational, in which I'm now looking up to Zach. It's fine, height-wise, he's taller than me, but I like being on top of the stand. He's taller than everyone. I like being on top of the standings, but that's over, at least for now. Thanks for watching and listening. Powered by Draftsharks. Mike Shope, Adam Krautwurst, welcome to the deep end. Made a dynasty trade today.
Oh, wow. That is the deep end.
So 2 years ago, I thought I had enough leagues, but turns out now I have more. And I was like a little bit cocky, like, you know what? I need a challenge. If anybody out there has a dynasty team that's, abandoned, looking rough, send it my way. And then a guy did. And I thought, well, I guess I have to say yes. I mean, no matter what this team looks like, I've sort of asked for it. And Adam, all the good players and all the picks for like 3 years had been traded away. It's not even, I can't even conceive of how this person went about managing the team I inherited, but I had to take it. So it's 2.5 years later and I'm still nowhere. I had some bad luck on top of just the horrible stacked deck against me.
Yeah.
Not that I would be winning necessarily. I'm not saying that, but I haven't gotten anywhere. I know that I'm 0-7 this year in year 3 of this team. But, I've been just picking all the, Brian Robinson, Jalen Warren, Pacheco. I have Michael Carter, who was an example of this last year. Receivers, kind of Alec Pierce and Dobbs and, just different guys. And I got an offer today, Waller and Brian Robinson and Cade Otton for Waller and Rondale Moore.
So you're getting Waller and Moore?
Yeah.
And you made the deal?
I did.
Yes?
Yes, I did.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Yeah, listen, Waller's interesting. He's a guy that some people are selling, some people are buying. Is it tight end premium?
No.
Can I ask that question? No. Okay.
Yes, you can ask, but no, it is not.
I mean, Brian Robinson stinks, right? We don't need to know anything more about Brian Robinson, right? I mean, unless there's something holding him back, like if the gunshot wounds slowed him down, or if that'll come back to him, who knows? But no, I don't hate that trade at all. Rondale, AJ Green will be gone, maybe even in the next day or so. So, yeah, no, I like it. But it's hard enough as it is to win with a good team. Like I applaud you for taking on that challenge of building up a terrible team to greatness, but it's hard enough to win with good teams. You know what I mean? You still got to get super lucky. So good luck with that.
I doubt I'll be in the market this offseason looking for another game like that, but yeah, there are some players that I'd like to play with.
Sure.
Most of those boxes have been checked, I'm lucky to say, through my connection with you. But I'd still like to look for maybe a couple more creative ways to build leagues in the offseason. We'll get to the offseason, not the time for that. So it's week 8 of the regular season. FFPC goes through week 12. I mean, we're getting a little bit close. What can players be doing now to prepare for the playoffs if they make it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's time, especially in the high stakes leagues and stuff like that, to start. It's never too early to start looking at playoffs when it comes to, especially like the onesie positions, like for receiver, tight end. Well, tight end's a onesie position too, but in FFPC, it's tight end premium. It's a little bit different, but receiver and running back, you're just trying to survive here. You're starting your best starts. You're grabbing handcuff running backs that can smash off of a injury to a starter. See Michael Carter, see Tony Pollard this week, hopefully, cross our fingers.
Yeah.
But quarterback and defense, I think we can get a little. I think we can start getting an edge here. So I pulled up the strength of schedule for team defense moving forward over here on draftsharks.com. It's beautiful color coordination, so you don't have to really dig too deep. And I just did the strength of schedule for defenses based on remaining schedules. So you can kind of look and see the Eagles have a really nice one coming up here. And I don't think anyone's, you're not streaming the Eagles. They're a great defense, and you're holding on to them anyways. But they just picked up another great defensive lineman. They're looking like they're going to smash in the fantasy playoffs here. They got two great matchups: Chicago, New Orleans, awesome matchups there. But other ones, this is to kind of dig a little deeper here and find like other spots, like the Chargers defense. Their playoff schedule is Tennessee, Indy, Raiders, three bright green matchups here. So these are the things you want to look at. Maybe you don't need to go grab the Chargers this week, obviously, because they're on a bye, but maybe coming out of the bye, you grab them and then you go ahead and start that. And then you hold on to them for 3 or 4 weeks. Now, I know it also depends on how your team looks. If you're, after this week, if you're 3-5 and you're like, I'm just trying to make the playoffs, I get it. And you're just trying to play the best plays every week. But if you can afford to hold a second defense or something like that, or even hold the Chargers as your defense and know that you're going to take a loss on defense the next couple of weeks, but in the playoffs, if you're already going to be there, you'll be locked in. So it's time to, go on draftsharks.com, look at the strength of schedule and see, the Chiefs have a great playoff schedule here too. Denver, Houston, Seattle, Denver again. So go on there and check it out. Look at, filter through, you can filter through the different weeks. You can filter through the final standings here. And you can go look at team defenses and start grabbing guys.
And these are not weighted for the playoff weeks. You're just noticing you're looking to the right. I said this last time, I think, but I love how Draftsharks gives you the option of leaving out week 18. Like there's that include final week option up there, because who needs week 18? So just quickly to follow up, like the Chargers, you would wait a week, or you would pick them up now if you had Breece Hall, no other move or something like that.
Sure. Yeah. That's fine. I would just think if someone has the Chargers, they're probably going to drop them going into their bye. They haven't been great.
Right.
They just lost Jackson. So I don't think someone's going to be holding the Chargers through their bye week. So wait for them to come out of the bye, grab them. And the only reason why the Falcons are a bad match, because the Falcons never pass the ball, so they never turn it over. But like if the Falcons decide, hey, we're going to be a competent team and pass the ball in the Chargers game, if Chargers are killing them, you might get some sacks, some strip sacks, and some turnovers, stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of what I would be looking to do. And you can also, like, if you're like, hey, week 13, first round of the playoffs, I want to know about that more than anything. You can click on week 13 and it'll show you what all the best matchups are here. So, you got Giants, you can maybe be able to pick up there, because I'm sure the Cowboys are gone. Maybe Seattle's available. So this is such a great tool to kind of look ahead. It saves you so much time. It's all right here. And you can do the same thing for a quarterback too. I know a lot of teams are streaming QB. So, you get a best remaining schedule here. Herbert's not available. But look at this. Panthers quarterback situation. Look at that playoff schedule. Broncos quarterback situation. Look at this playoff schedule. Niners, if Jimmy Garoppolo's available. Look at this Lamar playoff schedule. Smash City. I mean, 4 green matchups: Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Atlanta, Pittsburgh. I mean, no one's dropping Lamar, but if you have him, just have faith. Just get through to these fantasy playoffs, and that's where all the money's made, right here.
Oh, I have them.
I know you have them.
Carolina, you just need your league to have a team quarterback setting instead of individual players.
Right.
You get whoever it is. Could be like one of 3 or 4 different guys.
So gross. But if you're streaming again, I've seen Russell Wilson on some waiver wires, even in these high stakes leagues, like, pick him up and maybe something clicks. It's probably not going to click, but maybe something clicks, and now he's got a great playoff schedule. So like I said, you can filter this by, hey, I need, let's look to week 13. Look at, there you go. Pittsburgh. Who's this quarterback there? They got the best matchup of the whole week 13. So definitely a really, really great tool that people can start using.
Well, that would be good for me in the Draftsharks Invitational, Pittsburgh, as long as I can make it to that point with Kenny Pickett. I thought I was like sort of a built-in excuse in week 7. I'm still ahead in my group, but slipped a few spots in the standings. You'll show them in a minute when we bring in Zach Krueger. And I thought, oh, I got a good excuse here. I drafted Hurts and Cousins, and they're both on bye last week. So I just got whatever Kenny Pickett gave me as my third quarterback. That was it. And then, that was the second super flex position went to somebody else.
Yeah.
But then Zach tweeted how he had Allen, Drew Lock. He had like 1 point at quarterback this week. He was worse than me. And Kenneth Walker, who I think when Zach drafted, you're going to have the board, right? When we bring him in?
Yeah. Do you want me to bring him in? He's backstage. Yeah, I'm bringing him in.
Backstage.
I'm bringing him in, Zach. There he is.
Get him out here.
The man.
Zach, wasn't I, or maybe Adam and I both on here commenting on your draft, and then you came in, you and Cody Carpentier teamed up on this thing. And I was, at one point, all I remember is at one point in the middle, I'm like, I know who he's going to pick here. And I think it was Kenneth Walker. I'm like, nope, it wasn't Kenneth Walker.
That actually, first of all, guys, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk to both of you guys, but that does sound vaguely familiar. I wish I had recorded. Cody and I were obviously on a call talking, doing this thing, and I wish we had recorded it ourselves just to look back on later. We didn't, so we'll have to check out your guys' show. But I feel like there was a time, and it might be this, where Walker slipped a little bit further than you had expected. You thought we were going to take him there, and then we didn't, and he actually made it back to us. Which I believe is kind of what you're suggesting here. We got him in the 11th round. I have to imagine that's probably pretty late compared to his ADP and some of the other drafts that unfolded in this thing. I think 11th round Kenneth Walker's insane, and it's certainly paying off right now. But yeah, it's been a fun pick to watch kind of evolve over the last couple of weeks as we try to climb the board a little bit with this thing.
Man,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you.
Yeah, I was just I actually just sent me the board because I didn't have access to it, and then as soon as I got it, I'm like, oh, I remember talking about this draft for sure because of the super duper 0 RB start, and obviously Josh Allen, my guy, up at the 101. I'm glad that you knew it was a super flex league, but
yeah,
but I mean, if you could add like. A lot of these picks, if you're like, hey, if you could just hand pick your team right now, like for the rest of the season, I mean, Michael Carter, Kenneth Walker, like all these things are, I mean, Delvin Cook's got to go down now, right? I mean, I'm just looking at this team, the way everything's been going for you. I mean, what a beautiful situation that's been happening for you. James Robinson gets traded, how do you feel going forward here?
I mean, I'm pretty excited. So I was obviously, I've DM'd you a couple of times, Adam, just for the scoreboard update because I'm curious.
Of course, you're excited.
We're doing okay with ours. I would say that I'm pretty excited to see how this thing's going to go. I've been tracking it the last couple of weeks, just on individual scoring, seeing how our team's doing. The fact that we had the fourth highest score in our league this past week 7 with literally 0.92 points at quarterback. Thank you, Mac Jones. I feel like it's kind of just, I was texting Cody. I said, I think this kind of speaks to the strength of our team that we're besting all but 3 teams in a week where we got basically 0 points at quarterback in a super flex league. So it's pretty easy to get excited. I think that right now, the question is going to be, can you stay healthy at this point in time? I think that a lot of the pieces are in place. DeAndre Hopkins was a big one who we had return last week against the Saints. He had just over 20 points, I think it was. And we kind of made that pick with the idea of we're going to see what happens, continue hammering wide receiver here. We want to get a lot of top guys with the 0 RB build. And if he ends up hitting and we have some other running backs we like later in the draft, which Kenneth Walker is one who we did, then maybe this thing will pan out and we'll just kind of have a bevy of riches at the wide receiver position, see what happens at running back. We've been, pretty fortunate with the running back situation to work out the way that it has so far. The James Robinson trade, maybe in some ways not ideal since we also have Michael Carter.
Sure,
but
yeah.
In some other ways, maybe that is beneficial for us to have at this point in time. I think Michael Carter is still going to be the lead guy, and if for some reason he goes down, then we can't see the future. But we probably won't be complaining about having James Robinson behind Michael Carter if Carter were to go down. So I'm pretty excited about this team overall. It's been a lot of fun to watch over the last couple of weeks.
Dontrell Hilliard on August 4th, you tweeted, is anybody drafting Dontrell Hilliard? And if not, why not? And then I jumped right in like I did last night in this. I think it would have been in this.
It would have been about that time.
Yeah. And then you did too. You have Hilliard, I think, on here too. So,
yep.
Just to bring his name up, he's not someone that I find like really startable in any other You want to think so, sort of the pass catching alternative back, but Henry's getting some passes, and there's really not a lot of room there for Hilliard. But he's been good, I guess, so far in these.
Yeah, well, I think the Dontrell Hilliard quote unquote thesis of the play worked out well for us here. We got him in the 21st round. It was awesome to see him in week 1, 61 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. That obviously felt good that week. He had a touchdown the other week as well. So I feel like at the very least, Hilliard's the kind of guy where when he has one of those weeks, you're like, all right, that's why I drafted him in the 21st round of the Draftsharks best ball tournament. And the weeks he doesn't hit is fine. But I think that if for some reason something were to happen to Derrick Henry, I think the Dontrell Hilliard idea is still very much in play. I think they would probably find a way to try to split up that backfield a little bit. So I still feel good about Hilliard. He's a fun player to have.
It was pick 23-12 for me in what was the first round of these. Adam, what do you see in Tennessee, by the way, since that's come up? Like, could be Malik Willis this week. I don't know.
Yeah.
Our friend Louis G is like, oh, Malik Willis is never coming out. And I'm like, dude, they're 4-2. They're in first place. If Tannehill's ready, he's going back in. And Louis is like, I told you it was a hot take.
Yeah, no, the Titans are interesting. I think if Henry goes down, I think there'll be a mixture of Haskins and Dontrell Hilliard, with Hilliard getting all the pass catching work and stuff like that. So, Henry going down certainly doesn't hurt Hilliard at all. So
Right.
yeah, fine, great. It's certainly great to have Hilliard there. But the Titans are really right now. It's the only thing that matters is Derrick Henry. The passing game is non-existent. Treylon Burks is the only probably piece there that could actually get going. I don't know when he's due back either. He's on the IR. It's definitely not this week. Maybe the following week.
He can be back soon. I know
Soon,
that.
yeah.
I would say within a week, you're probably pretty spot on with that.
Yeah, because I know I've got him in a lot of spots where it just says IR next to his name, and it's set at that for weeks. So, but yeah, another interesting thing, Zach, about your team is you went Josh Allen 101, perfect, but the way that this season has played out, he's 2 quarterbacks. Like, he is getting the points for 2. I mean, you look at like your second quarterback, Mac Jones. Like, Allen's scoring as much as if you were going to start Mac Jones and Jared Goff combined. Yeah. Allen's scoring just as much as them. So even when Mac Jones doesn't play well and doesn't start, Drew Lock's obviously nothing right now. Like, you're still be able to smash at quarterback because Allen just scores as much as like a RB1 and a QB1.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it. He's scoring a lot of points, and he certainly makes up for Mac Jones. But then I also think just it's really just kind of been a perfect storm, I think, with the way that some of these backup running backs have emerged to higher roles in one way or another. And it just seems kind of like each week, because we haven't had Mac Jones for basically all but the 3 games. He got injured, and I think it was week 3 against the Ravens. Yeah. So he's been out, and it just seems like every time something happens, we have someone who pops up randomly for a week, and it ends up working out well for us. And the zero RB build and strategy is obviously built off of strategies of injuries or players unexpectedly going down or losing roles. And there's certainly some luck involved with that. We just kind of know that running back is a fragile position. We go out and we get guys who we like, and the guys who we like have been fortunately hitting at a pretty decent rate. And to fill that super flex spot, if you can get 15 or 20 points, a lot of teams quarterback twos, that's kind of what they're offering. So if we can find that either with an unexpected wide receiver performance or running back performance, we're going to do okay there, I think. And it's definitely been the perfect storm in a lot of ways. And now it's just texting Cody and hopefully our luck doesn't run out here. Like we're only about halfway through this thing.
I can't get my wife to care about one fantasy football related thing. But when I told her 2 weeks ago I was in first place in this thing, she's like, oh, yeah. How much is that? Sort of interesting.
Yeah.
But there's no way I'm beating this lineup. I mean, just go right from the beginning.
It's
everything's falling right. Yeah. I thought, oh, he's got Marquise Brown. No, it's Mike Evans. Just like everything's going right. And Andrews, just quickly, Zach, that was kind of late for Andrews, I think.
I thought it was too.
Into round 3, Andrews over Pitts. Were you decidedly Andrews on that, or did you mix it up in the summer? How did you see the two?
I probably was. That's one of those things where it'd be interesting to talk back with Cody. I know personally, I was definitely more on Andrews than I was Pitts. Baltimore, we kind of perceived is going to have a better offense. I think that's more or less held true at this point in time. And then just the concern with Pitts usage last year. He was a guy who I liked. I have some Kyle Pitts on other teams, and I'm obviously devastated by that. But for me, it has generally been Andrews over Pitts. My guess is that was probably a pretty easy pick for Cody and I to make there. We were probably pretty excited to get him, and that's been a fun one to watch as well because it's tight end premium. So to see him actually go to the 212/301 because we were at the turn, that was a surprising pick to see.
Adam, let's check the standings.
Yeah.
Zach is not in first overall, by the way. He's in second by percentage points.
It's really troubling that Mac Jones got us less than 1 point, and we're behind by 0.2. He could have gotten us a 2-point performance, and we'd be number one.
Yeah, let me see. I gotta pull him up here. There we go. But yeah, no, it's and that's it too. It's those picks that like the Andrews versus Pitts that makes or breaks a season, right? If you were considering one or the other, it's a 50-50 maybe for some people, and all of a sudden you made the right pick, and here you are sitting in second place. Yeah, 0.2. Oh my gosh, that reminds me of my season last year, 0.2 behind Chad Schrader the whole stinking year. But do you remember where you were last week, Zach? Or 2 weeks ago at least?
I want to say 2 weeks ago I was fourth after week 5.
Okay.
I think I was fourth.
Yeah, so there you are behind our guy John Scuderi, who we met out in Vegas. Great guy. He's a big Columbini's pizza fan over here in North Charlotte, New York.
Here we go.
We'll have to.
I'll have to check that place out next time I'm in
That's
town.
right. Yeah.
Next time you're in North Charlotte, New York, you have to go to this pizza place Adam mentions every week.
All right, I'll come by.
Perfect.
You won't even know you're in North Charlotte because it's chilly.
That's right.
And so this chili, how do you even spell it? Like highlight. It must be two words. It's actually the word chili. Anyway,
but look,
very tough to find this place. That's their secret.
The who's who here in the top 10. We got Beers, we got Oliva, we got Mike Shope, Kevin Scott, Draftsharks contributor, JJ, Mike Pareca, former, I think he's a main event champ, and then obviously Rich Reber and Lake Chris. So it's going to be tough. It's early, but it's late. How are you feeling, Zach? What do you think?
I feel really good about the roster overall. I mean, all my backup running backs from August are starters now, or close to it. So that feels pretty good on top of the wide receivers. The question I think for me is just going to, obviously in a large part come down to health, and then you just hope that your team proves to be strong enough to hold on throughout this thing. There's I saw the tweet earlier. Someone had posted that they were looking at all of the teams right back, like the teams that are in dead last right now, and they were saying how even they look like they're built for second half runs. And I haven't looked that deep at it, but I also don't doubt it. There's a lot of sharp people in these drafts, so I think it's far from over. Just happy to be here right now, and we'll see what happens.
It's fun, good stuff.
Zach, what are you doing for NBC Sports Edge? How can people sort of get into you?
Yeah, check me out over at NBC Sports Edge. All my content will be there. I'm doing mostly college football betting content. I also do a weekly DFS article over there. And then for a little bit of an NFL spin, because I'm already so into the college stuff, I'm doing a weekly Dynasty article that'll pop up on the NFL page for NBC Sports Edge. So if you're a Dynasty player and you kind of want to get a little bit of a head start on some of these guys you may not have been looking into at this point, then check out that article. I try to keep it fresh and not recycle players too often, so people can have a nice little catalog of college players when April rolls around or whatever.
Very cool. An
Awesome.
underutilized area in fantasy football, which you're writing on. So that's cool. And Zach drove up from the Capital District to join us for the Scott Fishbowl live event in Buffalo. Adam was there, and what a great night that was. How's your team doing there? Mine's not good.
Mine started slow, and then we've recently hit a nice little run. When I checked it earlier, I think I'm in like the top 300 overall. So
good.
So we're doing okay. We'll see what happens there. But now we just have to get a SFB draft again next year, so I can make another drive up to the city of good neighbors to see all my friends in Buffalo.
Yeah, and get some pizza on the way at Adam's remote location.
Yeah. Get some pizza on the way.
I'll bring it to you. How's that
there?
2 hours out of the way. Why not? It's pizza. Where else can you get pizza?
Nowhere. That's the thing. It's so hard to find these days.
I'll be down by you next week. Maybe I'll call you.
Reach out.
All right.
Reach out.
Thanks, Zach. Good job.
Right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, buddy. Love it.
Big development in week 7, the injury to Breece Hall. I mean, Adam, what torture. The huge touchdown run, and then you're just so happy. Those running backs in that range were just, most analysts, I would say, at least many, avoided it. You didn't want to get stuck with guys, like Josh Jacobs, who they can't be good. So you move up to Breece Hall. ETN, another one. Very interesting how that's playing out this year.
I know.
I don't know if that's dead zone or not. I guess you can define that your own way, but outside of like the first 2 rounds, you got into some running backs where there were easy arguments to make against them, including Hall, who was maybe round 4 or 5, but we lost him.
Yeah, it's tough, and especially for me. I know a lot of my best teams that I have left have got Breece Hall on them. It's like, man, it's just such a shot to the gut. And it's not like it's not even like a Zeke Elliott, Tony Pollard situation or Aaron Jones, situation over there with AJ Dillon, where it's like, okay, well, at least I have the backup where it's, he might even be just as good or something like that. It's, we knew Michael Carter wasn't going to be Breece Hall, and, we thought that they might add someone. They immediately added someone. So, I mean, and the good news is for Michael Carter owners is that, I don't think James Robinson's that good. So Carter, I think, will hold on to all of the pass down work and, a pretty good chunk of the rushing work there too. So I think Michael Carter gets a boost. I think James Robinson is probably an even swap from what he had been doing. Now it looked like he was the odd man out there in Jacksonville. So this is probably a step up for him from the last week or so, but so yeah, it's just a gut punch for Breece Hall. And I struggled to know what to do with these things in Dynasty, cause you get these running backs that are out for the year. It's like, what do I do? I don't really want to trade him, but the way that things have been going, you look at like J.K. Dobbins situation, like we might not get Breece Hall till November of next year, so it's like, he might not even be, he'll be back next year. Well, maybe not. Maybe not so, but he's about halfway through. So what are you doing with him in Dynasty?
Selling. I think that's exactly right. I think
Yeah,
Dobbins is a perfect example. And Hall had a second tear also, meniscus tear in his injury. So I think a year is conservative. And think of how it went with McCaffrey. Like you get into a year, you're the Jets and you don't have him for the first 6-7 games. Like what's your record? And if it's not really good, you're just not going to press it. I think even Baltimore this year with Dobbins seems very careful about him. And that's kind of the trend in the league with guys now is just look at Tre'Davious White, not a running back in Buffalo, but he was hurt ACL tear last November and he will not play before November this year. So, they're valuable assets. And if you can find a running back, which everybody says you can do all the time to, fill in Baltimore again with Edwards and Drake, who had a good game against the Giants, like they're out there. I think that's probably how teams will play it. So in Dynasty, I'm, conservatively thinking that next year's a wash too. And anybody else who gets hurt like this going forward is probably next year's a wash too. And probably somebody's hot for them in your league that doesn't look at it that way. Be a little bit more aggressive. Maybe they trade you one of these fancy receivers, depending on their build, that, went like 6 or 7 or 8 in the rookie draft when Hall went 1 and a draft pick. Like that could be a trade. Maybe their team's not doing as well, or even like I traded for Rondale Moore today. Some of these guys are in like year 3, 4 of their careers, could be offered up in trades like that. I don't know, like Judy or somebody where that trade is out there. So I at least wouldn't be afraid to do it. Jacobs, meanwhile, is killing it. And whereas Hall seemed like, the so-called league winner type, so does this guy. And I saw an interesting back and forth on Twitter. Gilds, Andrew Geller, and Todd Burrow, Todd from PA, who were on different sides the other day on whether or not we should have known to pick Jacobs. That's been a conversation this week. Do you feel like you missed something not having more of him? I'm assuming you don't have a lot.
Yeah, no, I don't have a lot, but I think, the argument against Jacobs was he hadn't really, he was good, but he hadn't really popped. And then it was like, okay, new coaching staff and, he's from New England and they like to use multiple backs and all this other stuff. And then of course, week 1 of the preseason, or was it the Hall of Fame game? Yeah. They used him, and they rolled him out there and everyone's like, oh, see, they're trying to trade him or they don't really like him. Then I don't think he played again for the rest of the preseason. And that's when I kind of was like, okay, they just, the coaching staff hadn't seen him play live yet. So they wanted to just see how he was. And he was a guy that I have in a couple. In fact, my favorite main event team right now, I've got Josh Jacobs on it. And I think most people are probably feeling the same way. Their favorite team has Josh Jacobs on it. And so, yeah, I think we certainly missed out. He should have been a little bit higher, but I think it was more of he hadn't stayed healthy yet. He hadn't really popped big time yet. And, he's kind of getting, what is he, year 4, year 5, something. So I think it was kind of just old news, and people kind of forgot about how good he was, So, yeah, some people, he was a guy that we should have been getting exposure to. And a guy like Matt Schauf has all the Josh Jacobs. He was taking him in every live stream we did. He was taking Josh Jacobs, and he had kind of the right idea. Like, you know what? There's a chance that he could be really good there on a really good offense.
Right. Yes, I'm really down the middle about it. I mean, I feel like the guys who we describe as boring, which really, what does that even mean? Boring. We're
Right.
sort of bored with talking about them, or not because we're taking them, because the industry kind of condescends to this type of player. Boring equals value, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In any fantasy setting, boring equals value. Everybody else is just sort of look at the shiny object, and a guy like this can be a good deal. So I think that probably happened with Jacobs. My bet was on that there's no way, and Guild said this, he was on the other side of it. My bet was on the Raiders. We're going to use lots of different backs. I mean, that's the trend.
Yeah.
You've got a coach who's been coaching for a long time and has always done that in New England, and they don't do the 50-year option on Jacobs. Kenyon Drake is there. Zamir White is drafted. Brandon Bolden, Amir Abdullah. Come on. Like, why would that ever be a workhorse role? And so that I don't feel like I missed out on. But, apart from make sure you get everybody, that kind of thinking, which, there are limits to that.
Correct.
I don't know. I'm not beating myself up over it, but I'm definitely jealous of the teams that have Jacobs, because that is position A. It looks perfect.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not beating myself up over it, because again, if this season doesn't show anything, it shows that we don't know anything. I mean, it's just, and you can have the right process going in. I mean, we were talking about Andrews and Pitts earlier. It's like Pitts, like, people, it's Marcus Mariota can't get him the ball, all this other stuff. The reason why, Pitts isn't getting the targets, I mean, his target percentage is high.
Fine.
It's
air
fine.
yards is fine.
The air yards, everything's fine. What we couldn't predict was they would have a historically low passing volume. I mean, we knew that they weren't going to be good. We knew their defense wasn't going to be good. We knew that they were going to be playing for catch up, but we didn't know the coach was going to be completely incompetent when it comes to how to play catch up football. You don't throw 8 times in the second half that when you're down 24 points. That's not how you play catch up football. So it's just, it takes outliers like that, historical type stuff, to ruin guys like Kyle Pitts. And so we just didn't know what they were going to do with guys like Josh Jacobs. I thought he'd have the goal line role, he'd have the rushing role. I didn't think he'd have the pass receiving role, because like you mentioned all those running backs that were catching. Kenyon Drake can catch passes, and Amir Abdullah is a pass catcher, and Bolden's had success this year catching the ball. So, and in years past. So you just don't know.
You know what that is, Atlanta? It's baffling. What it is keep it close. We're playing in Cincinnati. We're an underdog anyway. And you get down like that. I think coaches they sort of shift into, try not to make it 60-0, how to make this look less than completely humiliating. And, Vic Fangio was this coach for me with Denver, where they would play the Chiefs and lose by 7 or something. And they get all tons of credit. Yeah. But really all they were doing is punting on 4th and 4 all night. Like, they were just playing to lose by a little bit. I mean, of course, they would never say it that way, but I think that's what that is. So, because there's no reason why a coach would ever think to bleed clock in a game when they're losing like that. But, what was the final score? It wasn't so egregious.
Right.
And I think Arthur Smith is probably one of these types who feels like that's an accomplishment, even though it's the same in the standings. I don't know. We're slowly weeding that kind of thinking out of sports, but not all the way. The way that baseball teams throw shortstops into pitch in the 6th inning when they're down by 10 runs because they know the game is lost,
Yeah.
Just like, we're not going to put a guy we need to pitch tomorrow night in here because we need him tomorrow night. This game's over. So We're just going to give it to you. Go ahead and win by 20. We don't care. Hockey coaches pulling goalies with 7-8 minutes left, even if that means they get scored on 3 more times, their odds of winning are still better with the extra man than leaving the goalie in. So whatever, if I lose 6-2 or 3-2, it's the same. That's sort of the new age thinking, and it makes sense to me. I think Smith is the other way. And that's the only reason why you would throw 13 passes in a game like that.
Yeah, and not only like point differential doesn't matter. It's not a tiebreaker, I don't think, in any scenario. So it's like, yeah, go out there. And again, you're not turning the ball, you're turning around and handing the ball off to even Cordarrelle Patterson. You're not handing it off to even Damian Williams. You're handing off to your third, your fourth, your fifth running backs. Like, you have and the same people who are turning around and handing the ball off to Tyler Algier are the same people who drafted Kyle Pitts in the top 7 and Drake London in the top 15. Like, you drafted those guys to throw Drake London the ball one time, down 21 points, down 30 points. Like, what are
because they thought it didn't matter anymore, If it's a closer game, like it was earlier in the season, you get more, but it's very frustrating. I've got about, how about you? I've got about 10 minutes here. Do you want to talk waivers, or do you want to put this league up where we're both doing well? Should we take time to boast about that, or move past it?
We can do whatever you want. You want to talk waivers? We can do that.
Let's talk waivers. That's what
guys. Yeah,
is probably on most listeners and viewers'
we'll
minds
boast next
tonight.
week because we'll still be in the top 3 next week. But,
okay, all right.
But yeah, what do you think? We're obviously dropping Breece Hall. What do you think? You got any guy? I mean, obviously, you've already done waivers. You got any guys that you kind of dug in on here?
I think Van Jefferson is interesting.
Ooh, talk to me.
Kyren Williams and Van Jefferson, both on a McVay offense where I think they need help. And Jefferson, they don't have anybody to get down the field. He's close. Williams, I don't know. He wasn't a great prospect at all, to put it nicely, but physically. But we heard that the Rams had plans for him, and he got hurt. Was it not on the opening kickoff of opening night?
Kickoff, yep.
So I think they're interesting. Most of my leagues now tend to have one guy that was surprisingly cut already. That could be, not huge names necessarily, but Kenneth Gainwell is in one. Russell Gage is out tomorrow night, but he's one. Elijah Moore was cut in one league that I'm in. So you can find those guys, and really, I think Marquise Brown or J.K. Dobbins, names like that.
Yes.
So they're not going to be on the cover of the article, but they're out there. And I always search by owned percentage when I start waivers. I think Harrison Bryant is sort of obvious, but interesting in Njoku's absence for Cleveland at a tough position. So there are a couple thoughts.
Yeah, Harrison Bryant was a guy I was going to bring up, especially for tight end premium. We're talking about Njoku being out, what did they say, 2 to 5 weeks or something like that, Are they using Njoku because he's great, or are they using him because they want to use the tight end, or is it both? Bryant I think is a rock solid tight end. They drafted him fairly high. He could see 5 to 7 targets in these tight end premiums. He's a guy that I'm absolutely attacking in waivers for the tight end premium leagues. Is Harrison Bryant. He'll be a nice pickup. You might even get four games out of him. You mentioned J.K. Dobbins. I'm seeing him in quite a bit of leagues. They're saying 4 to 6 weeks. There's leagues where I'm really good and I just lost Breece Hall. And I'm like, you know what? If I can add a J.K. Dobbins and get him back in a month and hold on for 4 weeks, and maybe, again, this stuff sounds crazy, but it happens every single week. Pick up Dobbins, and then Gus Edwards goes down again, and all of a sudden Dobbins is the starter again in 4 weeks. Like, that sounds like a lot of things to happen, but look at like Ramondre Stevenson. Look at all these different guys who find themselves in starting running back spots. So Dobbins is a guy that I'm certainly putting waivers in on. And Marquise Brown, like you said, I saw him in a league. It might even be a league that I'm in with you. I have no idea. I was scrolling through, and he's a guy that's, they said 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks last week. So, it's 3 to 5 weeks now. He's a guy that I would be targeting too, especially if I have a spot for him, or if I've got money to spend. Because now it's like we're getting towards the end. You can't spend the money in playoffs other than like defenses or whatever. And so, go spend that money. Go get these guys and try to stash them. Another player that people have been talking about is Marquise Goodwin for the Seahawks. I just don't. Goodwin's always hurt. He's a sprinter. He's not a football player. He's always hurt. He's not very good. He has weeks like this, like every year. It feels like he popped for the Niners a couple of years ago. We had 2 long touchdowns, and everyone goes and picks him up. If you want to add him, fine, but don't do more than a $2 or $3 bid on this guy. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Goodwin?
Same, pretty much. I have a fondness for him. He was one of my favorite guys to talk to when he was in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Just had a real nice sit down with Marquise Goodwin once. But but he is above Eskridge in Seattle, and Metcalf and maybe even Lockett might miss time. Metcalf seems, I don't know, is it even likely? So there could be room there. They're throwing the ball a lot. A couple other names for your quick reactions. Paris Campbell, who we all cut. You want him back?
Sure. Not for
New
a
quarterback.
lot. New quarterback, rookie who's known. Like, I can't speak a lot on the quarterback than just what I've read, and he's a very mobile quarterback. So I see him, using his legs a lot more than trying to spread the ball around to like their number 3. But you never know. Sometimes these quarterbacks have a rapport with guys that we don't know about, right? So maybe he has a rapport with Campbell that they've built up throughout the offseason. But he's not a guy I'm dying to go get, knowing that we've got a kind of a mobile rookie quarterback here.
How about Darius Slayton?
Yes, he's a guy that I have seen on some waiver wires. Tony, who knows if he'll ever play football again. Kenny Galladay stinks. Wandale's good, but he's not some elite alpha number 1. So Slayton's definitely a guy I'd be looking to pick up.
Sammy Watkins?
No.
Under no circumstances?
I don't know. I just can't. I can't see it. I can't see it him ever helping anyone ever again.
Are you holding Jeff Wilson?
Yeah. So I'm the never drop a running back guy, but I have a league where I lost Breece Hall and I lost another back for this week. And I needed to pick up another running back. So Jeff Wilson's on the cut block in one of my leagues, but he's also a free agent in another league where I'm looking to add him. So it really depends on what your situation is. CMC, people think he's super injury prone. Jeff Wilson's looked fine. Go ahead and add Jeff Wilson. Maybe CMC gets hurt, hopefully he doesn't, but it's a situation where Jeff Wilson could be the starter again at some point.
I want to say this before we go on Isaiah Pacheco.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't really know what my in is in fantasy. I'm a talker more than I am an analyst. I read other analysts and make most of my decisions.
Yep.
I play, but when it comes to a take, I want to have a statistical breakdown. I want to have a foundation, and I often don't have my own. I'd be using someone else's. So I don't enter the space with like, here's why you should play this guy this week, because I'm usually deferring. But this is what I think I am good at. The Pacheco story was Ian Rappaport Sunday morning. I promise you, if Ian Rappaport is tweeting about a lineup decision, the team he's tweeting about wants it out.
Okay.
There's no way Ian Rappaport is tweeting Isaiah Pacheco is going to start today if the Chiefs don't want it out. He won't do it. I mean, that's how I see it. Those guys, he works for the league, and they're given information. I don't mean that personally toward him, but I think that's the role he plays.
Yeah.
I think Adam Schefter is almost the same thing. You notice how many times seconds apart they have the same scoop. Like it's organized.
Yeah.
So I have Pacheco, and Sunday morning, as you remember, was like big buzz was Isaiah Pacheco.
Yep.
But when I saw that it was Rappaport, like there's no way the Chiefs don't want that out. And if you look at it that way, don't expect Pacheco to mean much more in this game than anything else. Like the team they were playing just traded for Christian McCaffrey, and they had sort of the natural benefit to like, well, you don't know what we're going to do with Christian McCaffrey. Like people said, he's a must start. He was okay, but he didn't play like the whole game or anything.
Right.
And so Kansas City football teams are sometimes so addle-minded, like, well, we want one of those, like, what's our mystery? Oh, Pacheco is going to start. And I don't even like, it doesn't have to be sinister from Rappaport. He could be in on it, or he could just sort of be a pawn in those situations. But when those really mean something, I think, is when it's not him or even Schefter tweeting those out. It's when it's a local guy who will say it, and then he'll probably be punished, or she. They'll probably be punished by the team. They'll probably be denied access, because they gave away a state secret who the starting running back was, but not if it's coming from Rappaport. So what I did on Pacheco is I played him where I needed to. It was a tiebreaker, but he did not play for me over anybody who I thought could give me 10 points.
Now, would you have, I know it's hindsight, so I didn't take CEH out of any lineups. I don't think that I had to start him in because I still thought that he had that touchdown upside and whatever. Did you start Pacheco over CEH anywhere? Would you have?
The only CEH team I have is a main event team that's losing, and I started him over Singletary and Dobbins, who were on bye and injured.
Sure.
Like I had to.
Yeah.
Between those two guys, I probably would have started Pacheco over CEH because the CEH thing has always been so fragile.
Yeah.
Anyway, but none other than Jared Smola on Sunday morning said, notice that the Pacheco rushing prop isn't moving at all.
That's right.
They didn't have any, the market didn't have any respect for the Rappaport tweet.
Yeah.
Like he was the same as he was before. He got there because of the garbage time runs. Like he got there in the fourth quarter, not in the first quarter, just like against Arizona in the first game.
Yeah.
But like there was no substance to he was going to not just start the game, which he did, but
be some type of workhorse. Yeah.
Carry the ball, no pun intended.
I know.
All right. So consider the timing and the source. And,
I like that.
If I feel strongly about something, then I'll get involved on Sunday morning. I did tweet on Jared's point on Sunday, but that was it. I don't really want to do a lot of talking anymore. Just with you. All right. Good luck in week 8 and tonight on the Wire.
Yes.
At Deep End FF1. Thanks to Zach Krueger for coming on. Congrats to him and John Scuderi for their excellence in the Draftsharks Invitational. And any questions for me, Adam, before we go?
No, listen, Chuck, tonight I'll be on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. So check that out. 10 o'clock to midnight. I mean, who needs sleep? I got to get off of this thing, finish up waivers, and hop on with those guys, talk about waivers with Balky and all those guys. Oh, it's going to be a night. It's going to be fun.
Cool. Good for you. Thanks for watching and listening, everybody. Mike Shope, Adam Krautwurst. See you next Wednesday in the Deep End.
See you guys.